Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a real honor for me to rise in this House for the first time after the summer to speak to Bill C-2, the Strong Borders Act. And I, of course, am speaking on behalf of the residents of my constituency of Davenport that I'm so honored to represent for the fourth time. Thank you so much. Mr. Speaker, the need for this legislation is as great as it was when it was introduced in June, and I look forward to helping make the case for this bill today. When we talk about strong borders, on this side of the House, we are not talking about building walls. We're talking about providing tools that will protect everyone in Canada from the kinds of threats we could not have imagined not that long ago. So, think of Bill C-2 as offering a toolkit. These tools in the bill are designed to protect us from organized crime, hostile state actors, human traffickers, money launderers, and drug cartels. These are the people who are flooding our streets with fentanyl, sexually exploiting children online, smuggling people to our borders, or trying to make dirty money clean. Criminals, plain and simple, Mr. Speaker. Criminals who are using every tool of modern technology to commit crimes. Mr. Speaker, law enforcement is playing catch-up. Some call it playing whack-a-mole as criminals find new ways to exploit gaps in our system as quickly as we close the ones they were just using. We can argue over the finer points of what we should be doing, but there can be no argument at all over the need for immediate and urgent action. And we on this side of the House believe that Bill C-2 is the action we must take. Action to properly protect our borders. Action we need to move on multiple fronts. This is action that explains why this bill touches on so many areas. For example, Mr. Speaker, you might not have the Oceans Act at the very top of your list for amending when thinking of the Safe Borders Act. But by making adjustments and us including it in this act, in this bill, in our proposed legislation, if it is passed, it will allow the Coast Guard to conduct security patrols and collect, analyze, and share information and intelligence for security purposes. This will help protect our maritime borders, especially in the Arctic. Mr. Speaker, fentanyl traffickers both inside and outside of Canada use the mail, Canada Post, to move their lethal product. A tiny amount of fentanyl, just mere milligrams, can kill someone. It also fits neatly into an envelope, and under the current Canada Post Act, it's illegal for that envelope to be opened. But if BC2 passes, it will change that. With this bill, law enforcement can go to a judge, obtain a warrant, and then search and seize drugs, such as fentanyl, from Canada Post mail. With this change, Canada Post would be on exactly the same footing as the big courier companies, and criminals would lose an easy way for them to be shipping drugs. This is much needed policy change, Mr. Speaker, because we know for criminals, borders are something to be ignored. Borders are an inconvenience. They add to the cost of doing business. Our job is to make borders real and to make sure criminals cannot hide behind our modern communication tools to conduct their business. For Canada, it means ensuring law enforcement can properly investigate those who would do us harm. And that means creating a proper lawful access regime to allow law enforcement to respond to the challenges it faces from criminals. Changes proposed in Bill C-2 will help bring our laws and policies in line with our allies, particularly those in the Five Eyes Alliance, who have had their own versions of some of these same tools for many years. And it's important to remember that the Canadian version will be keeping with Canadian values. consistent with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Mr. Speaker, there has been considerable public discussion about this issue since Bill C-2 was tabled, and I look forward to the debate here in this venerable House over the coming hours and days. There is one important element I do want to highlight about our proposal. Some have argued that the lawful access regime being proposed is a major attack on privacy rights. I would like to argue that it is not. It is carefully structured to calibrate law enforcement's access to information with the nature of information being sought. For the vast majority of information requests, a judicial warrant is required. Now, Mr. Speaker, there are a couple of exceptions to that, but ones I believe that all sides of this House can support. So let me give you a couple of exceptions. First, Bill C-2 clarifies the ability of law enforcement to use specific powers and see specific information without a warrant in urgent, time-sensitive circumstances. One such circumstance would be in the live and active abuse of a child. I'm sure we can all agree that stopping the abuse of a child is an appropriate exercise of police authority. The second, and the other instance, is when police are trying to find basic information about someone as part of an investigation. This typically happens in the early stages of a police investigation. What we're talking about here is basic information, essentially someone that responds to simple yes or no kind of question. So what the police would glean from the answer would allow them to go to a judge, seek a warrant, and obtain more information. Again, the object of the exercise here is to allow law enforcement to move at the same speed as the criminals that they are pursuing. Due process is maintained, but speed is also critical for police when pursuing those who use digital tools to communicate. Mr. Speaker, this bill has many more elements, and we will be discussing them over the course of the debate today. Amendments to the Proceeds of Crime, Money Laundering, and Terrorist Financing Act, the Sex Offender Information Registration Act, the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, Criminal Code and Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, among others, all add up to a complete and compelling package of reforms that modernize our laws and protect us from those who would do us harm. Bill C-2 builds on the work we began last December when we announced a $1.3 billion investment in border security. These additional investments are helping our law enforcement and intelligence agencies keep pace with transnational organized crime groups that have become more sophisticated in their use of new technologies, like drones, 3D printers, and encrypted communications to carry out cross-border crimes. Mr. Speaker, under our border plan, we are hiring more personnel and delivering more tools and resources, such as advanced technology, drones, surveillance equipment, K-9 teams, helicopters, and more. We have also listed 7 transnational organized crime groups as terrorist entities under their criminal code and are constantly monitoring to determine if more should be added. These listings allow us to take direct action against organized crime, such as freezing their assets in Canada. Mr. Speaker, Canadians expect us to do everything we can to combat crime and to keep people safe. It is our essential duty as a government. This bill is necessary, but we make no claims to perfection. The Minister of Public Safety has made it clear that the government is open to constructive amendments. I look forward to an equally constructive debate today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.